And with that, we go to another game in the Big Ten. This is a Heisman QB kind of matchup. We've got Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin. Fernando Mendoza is the quarterback of Indiana, the Hoosiers, led by Curt Cignetti. We've got Julian Sayin, quarterback of the Buckeyes, led by Ryan Day. I kind of want to start with I want to break this game down into parts. Indiana offense, Ohio State offense, Indiana defense, Ohio State defense. This Indiana offense, they have three backs with 60 plus carries, 400 plus yards, and over 5 yards a carry, led by Roman Hemby. Do we see that against Ohio State? Because if we see that, if we see three backs averaging 5 yards a carry, this could be a ball game. My personal belief, I don't know if that's possible, but they have shown to be able to do that. The next part of the offense is they have two awesome receivers, Elijah Surratt, who I think is one of the five best in the country, and Omar Cooper Jr., who has bursted on the scene in Surratt's absence for some of the year. Um, do you think, Duska or Arch, that Indiana will run the ball effectively enough in this football game?
No.
I'm going to say no as well.
And the reason I say that is because there have already been games this year where they've played worse fronts and have not been able to produce on the ground.
Which, so if your answer to that is no, it's the Fernando Mendoza show. And in the Fernando Mendoza show, Ohio State is going to bring plus pressure. They don't care. They're going to play man coverage. Like they will play one high man coverage. They'll play man off blitzes. They'll play cover zero. Like they don't care. They think they have the best defensive backs in the country, and they probably do. So my thing is like, I don't know if I trust Cignetti when it comes to scheming up man beating plays. I think a lot of the times they try to trust that back shoulder throw and it's money for them a lot of the times. But when you play elite defensive backfields like Notre Dame last year in the playoff, sometimes your guys just aren't better and you need to scheme up man beating plays. And that's something he's kind of he trusts his stuff, and his stuff is, dude, we're gonna throw our back shoulder stuff and like we're gonna hit it. And they do. They did against Penn State for a ton of explosives with Charlie Becker, and they did it against Oregon, but this Ohio State defensive backfield is different.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hop in. Oh, go ahead, Arch.
I was going to say, just kind of talking about like the running backs. And you mentioned, Deska, with like games prior. I kind of look at this the way that I looked at Indiana versus Penn State. And I'm sure that was one of the games you were referencing with their, I guess, effectiveness to run the football. I just went back to check the box score for that game because I remember watching it live. You could tell that they like Penn State's talent was able to make up for at spots, and obviously Ohio State's front is going to be better with Edric Houston and Arvell Reese and some other guys like that. But Indiana rushed for 31 carries for 108 yards, and 20 of those were from Mendoza yards on scrambles. So in those 6 carries, so you're looking at 25 for about 80. I think if you told me that at the end of this game on Saturday night that Indiana ran the ball 25 times for 80 yards, I would probably say Ohio State won. And I don't think that's not horrible, but I don't think it's effective enough to get by Ohio State because I think with Matt Patricia and Ohio State's defense, the looks that they're going to be able to throw at Mendoza, if they know they can stop the ball and base defense and stop the run, I think it could get ugly. But that's just my opinion. It's kind of, I think that was kind of Indiana's weakness last year was playing these like high talent teams, and you kind of saw that with Penn State again this year. But I just think that's where the matchup is going to be for Ohio State, and that's why I think Ohio State's going to be able to shut down this run and have a lot of success.
I think we all have a similar feel for this game because this is kind of the exact same thing I narrowed in on when trying to figure out how I felt about this. And I can just back up everything we've been saying with some stats as well. So both of these run defenses rank in the top 4 nationally. Indiana's second and Ohio State is fourth. And they both had some really strong run stopping performances. Last week, Ohio State bottled up Michigan. And we saw when Indiana played Oregon, who has ran the ball a lot more effectively since that game. But we saw in that contest, Indiana was able to stop Oregon pretty completely. And their ability to stop the run also bled into their pass rush. And they were just getting after Dante Moore all game. And that was a big factor in them winning that. But I think the reason that Ohio State has an edge here is because when their run game isn't as successful, there's less variability in their ability to pass the football. And I tried to find some stats to back that up. It was hard to do that. I took some of the worst rushing performances from both teams and tried to compare how they performed just statistically in the pass game from there. So the Penn State game for Indiana was the one I used. And like you were saying, they ran for 108 yards and they were pretty stagnant in the pass game for the most part until the fourth quarter and until they had to find a way to win that game. And I just think there's more variability there. You saw it in the Iowa game as well. They weren't really able to produce a lot on offense when their run game was getting stopped. And the most comparable game I found for me outside of when they both played Wisconsin, Wisconsin actually did a good job stopping the run against both of these teams, but they just got violated through the air. But for me, the Ohio State game I looked at was the Minnesota game, who I don't think they're that comparable to Penn State, but they do have a similar record and play a similar style, I'd say. They ran it for 133 yards in that game, which is pretty effective still. But in that game where they couldn't rely on the run game as much and they were right around 4 yards a carry, Sayin went 23 for 27 for 326 yards with 3 touchdowns. And I just think that's the big difference there. And the overarching point I'm trying to make is that I think Ohio State, even if the run game's not there, they're still going to be able to produce offense through the air. And there's just a little less variability in that performance. And there honestly hasn't even been a game where they looked like they've been struggling on offense. Maybe outside of Texas to start, but that's the first game of the year, and it's hard to use that as a real point of data. So I just think Ohio State has an edge because I think running the ball is going to be tough sledding in this game, but
Yeah.
who do you put more faith in? Is it the Indiana passing attack with Mendoza and Surratt, or is it the Ohio State passing attack with all the
Yeah.
weapons they have?
I do think the best matchup Indiana has, and I don't think it's a winning matchup, but I think it's their best matchup, is their defense against Ohio State's offense. Um, because like you said, Dusky, if they can stop the run, which is it's not the most impossible thing to do against Ohio State, they can get after the quarterback. And they know how to create pressure, and they have 3 players with 5+ sacks. Um, Georgia has 0 players with 5+ sacks, just to give you like a baseline. Um, this is what I'm very excited to see. It's a little bit nerdy, but I want to see if Indiana's going to play man coverage and like play one high man coverage, mano y mano. Like we like our guys versus Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. My gut says they will do it, but they're going to do a different version of it. I think they're going to opt to play 2 high man. So they're going to only rush 4, play 2 high man, which is that means the defensive backs are going to be inside leverage, playing trail technique, basically letting them win by a step over the top because that is where their help is. Now, the problem with 2 man is you're going to have linebackers matched up on tight ends all game. So this is where I think might be a Max Clare spot. And he has 400 yards receiving, and he's a damn good tight end. And we saw in the Michigan game, Ohio State's tight ends make plays. I think this is another game where Indiana's going to say, you know what, we're probably not going to let you, we're not just going to let you throw fades to Smith and Tate all day or just run post balls. We're not going to sit in cover 4 and let you just try to take the top of our defense or sit in cover 1. We're going to play 2 man. If we're going to play man cover, we're going to play zone. We're going to try to stop the run. And when we do get into man looks, it's going to be 2 man. And your tight ends and Julian Sayin are going to have good timing, which I think ultimately Ohio State does. I'm picking Ohio State to win the game. And they might show that they just aren't very vulnerable as a football team.
You you know a lot more about pass defense and coverages than I do, but just watching Indiana this year, their linebackers are really good, but
Yes.
they've always struck me as more of good run fitters that can
Yes.
tackle they can just run sideline to sideline,
Yes.
tackle well in
Yep.
open field and on the perimeter,
Yes.
and not as much guys that you'd want to trust in man coverage against tight ends that can attack you vertically like
Yeah.
Max Clare.
I think
So
I think if I was trying to see this game, I think the first thing they do is they try to confuse Mendoza. So maybe they play cover 6, cover 2, cover 3, just versions of zone coverage, right? And then at some point, you're going to get to like the 30-yard line, and if Sands keeps making the right decision, it's going to be we're going to have to play man coverage. And that's when like Isaiah Jones versus Max Clare, like, here we go. Here we go. So
I saw a funny clip of Mendoza getting interviewed, and he was talking about Tom Brady and Ed Reed and compared that to him and Caleb Downs playing against each other.
Dude, for college football's sake, like that's as good as it gets.
It's
really.
pretty similar comp,
Like,
yeah.
honestly, like that's just Caleb Downs might be the best safety we'll see this year, and then like Mendoza is one of the best we've got. But that is a
But
good.
then there's a video of Caleb Downs reacting to that, and he just started dying laughing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Maybe he doesn't respect Mendoza as a
Yeah,
QB as much
yeah, dude,
as Mendoza respects him.
him as a safety.
Yeah.
How about it? All right, that's a
But
good
Mendoza's kind of just a football nerd,
yeah,
which I love.
yeah, God loves ball.